Howdy, Bart here, and welcome. Willkommen. It are whatever Wednesday. Yep, it's Wednesday. So we're going to talk about variables. Sounds boring, right? Yes and no. What can we do with them? Well, just about everything. We are quite limited to things we can do without them, though. What I actually had planned for this evening wasn't working too well, so I said the hell with it. So, as you can see, this is the usual project we've been working on for the last couple videos, and has primary, secondary, gun 1, gun 2. You know, we've got a lot of these, and these are booleans. And a boolean is a really common one that's used quite a bit. And what is a boolean? Well, it's a yes or no kind of deal. It's either is it yes or is it no? I mean, is the box checked or not? Is it a viable yes or no, or whatever? It is a yes or no statement, and they're usually attached with a branch node or to a branch node. So when we're using a branch is asking a question. Is the crosshair on, yes or no? Or is it checked, true or false? This could be read as true or false, or yes or no. And in essence, it's asking, is the crosshair on in this particular variation here? If it is yes, then do that. If it is not, we're not going to do anything. So this will only work if the answer to this question is yes. Okay. Fair enough. So let's look at that in, like, we've got these different things here, the weapons pickups that are on the map. We can walk around, we can pick them up, do our thing, and a variable using a boolean is saying, have we picked it up? If we have picked it up, then we're not able to pick it up again. So using a boolean variable with a branch node to ask, have we, or, you know, in that situation, have we already picked this up? So it's like with the crosshair, using that line trace. Can I use this line trace now? No, I cannot, because I'm not in that first person view. I have a weapon out, but does that mean I can use it? No. Now that I have the crosshair visible, I can now do that. And I can make a nut shot or headshot. So we've clamped down on what actually gets shown there, headshot or nut shot. So what if we wanted to take a look at some other ones here? Let's go into our target dummy just for the hell of it. There's really nothing in here, but what I'm going to do is just use this as an example. See, I already had all these variables in here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete them because I don't need them for this particular character, this being a target dummy. And there. So we've talked about the Boolean variable. So let's create a new variable, and let's look at the list of what we can and cannot use. Okay, I create a new variable here in variables in our blueprint, and I'm going to call this test, or if I learn how to spell, test variable. And now we've got our name. Once we've clicked on it here, we can always re-edit the name here as well. The variable type is a Boolean, and then next to it you have make this variable a container, array, set, or map. The most common that you're going to use is the pill shape, or you're going to use it as an array. And using an array means that you're having multiple choices to that variable. So the next one is a byte. A byte is an 8-bit number. I don't recall ever using a byte for anything. So, okay. Integer, yes. Integer is basically a whole number. there's no decimal point. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 2.5. You can't have a fraction or a portion of a number. It has to be whole numbers only. Whereas a float says floating point number. Float is actually going to be one of those numbers you can assign that has a decimal point. So 1.246, or you put that decimal point in there and you can put whatever numbers you want. A name is just a text name, a text only name. So if you want that to be the name of something, you can set the name of an object or whatever for your variable name. A string is just a string of text, and this could be letters or numbers or what have you. Text usually is whenever you're using a text variable, is when you're assigning a name, like or a series of text. Whenever you cross over into a door and it says you are now at door whatever, you can use it to print that text variable. There's other reasons you'll use it, but it's pretty self-explanatory on that. A vector is going to be an X, Y, Z. So if I now hit compost and save, you can see now the test variable, and if you open it up here, it's going to be the same thing. You can set the X, Y, Z coordinates of an object. Whereas a rotator is going to show you basically the same thing, but the rotational value of that in X, Y, Z. It's, well, rotator, rotation, yeah. Transform. Now, if you do a transform is going to be your location, your rotation, and your scale. So if you're spawning an item into your map, you might want to use a transform to set the scale or set the rotation and location. So if you need to put all that information into a variable so that you can keep calling that variable over and over and over again. So, cool. That's the basic list of variables that you have. I haven't assigned anything to this variable, so I can switch back and forth. Once you've started using it and you decide you need to change it from a transform where you just need a vector, it may give you like an error dialog, but it will allow you to convert it. So I'm actually going to delete this variable. And what can we use a variable for here? Now, damage. Now, event any damage on this particular target dummy. Okay, let's say that we have our health value, which is set at 100, which is a float. The reason why I use it as a float is that's because that's the way Unreal Engine handles it. You can convert it back and forth if you like. I choose not to, because that's just what I do. Alright, so event any damage. So if you want to check to see if your target is taking damage, then whenever it takes any damage whatsoever, you can then perform an action. You know, you don't have to have anything else linked off of anywhere else here, but what you can do is, first off, let's look at our player character, and when we're shooting, we're not actually applying damage here. So what we need to do then is add apply damage, and I am just going to connect that into any one of this. I got so much going on here. Let's actually connect it off of a new pin on my sequence node here, just so I can add another additional thing going on. So the base damage actor, well, we need to get that from our hit actor, and the base damage itself is how much damage we're going to apply, and I'm going to apply 10 damage. Compile and save. Now you can set this up as a variable. You could do like what we're doing here, where if it was a nut shot, you're going to apply X amount of damage when you do a nut shot. When you get a headshot, let's just say we want to connect that into here. So when we get a headshot, we're going to do 50 damage. So from there, you can also do the same thing. I've got a lot of crap going on here. So ignore all the extra stuff here. But we just wanted to do that. We want to apply damage to wherever we hit. We're applying damage. So let's go ahead and save that. So with this, we can grab our health variable, get a copy of our health. Now when you're pulling in variables, you can just drag the variable in, and it's going to ask, do you want a get or a set node? Or you can hold down the alternate key, or the control key, excuse me, and left click and drag it in. It's going to give you a get node. You get a get. If you hold down the alternate key, you left click, drag it in, you're going to get a set node. So we're going to use the set node here, but what we want to do here is we want to get our current health, and we want to subtract. So we'll do float minus float. We'll subtract the damage that we've taken from our current health and set that to our new health. So we've got our health, we subtracted the damage we've taken, and we've set that. And we could do print text. We could also do a just like, ouch, damn it. Okay. Now you could also do there's a way to actually add that in there, and I don't remember the exact functionality of doing that. You could also do this, connect that directly in, and it will tell you, you'll get in the upper left hand corner of the screen, it's just going to blink and say 10, that it just took damage essentially. So let's see if it actually does anything. You can see we just hit the character, we hit that actor, and it subtracted 10 damage. Now we're not hitting a character, so it's not doing anything. So I hit him, taking off 10 damage each time. Why would that be good? Well, if you wanted to set up something like a floating number that comes up and it says, hey, you just did 10 damage, or plus 10, or negative 10, or whatever else, you could do that. Alright, so we've taken that away. With our variable, let's see what else we can do here. With our target dummy, let's get an event begin play. With an event begin play, we can farm some data as soon as we hit that play button, and we go in there, and that particular item is in the map. Once it's there, we want to obtain information. So on event begin play, let's do get actor location, and we want to store this data as what our current location is. So we can drag out from there and select promote to variable, and now we can call this our start location. And just as an example of something we can do with that information, that is going to be our start location. We know that that's a vector. It has that yellow color to it, so bang. What are we going to do with that variable? After we've applied 10 damage, hell, we could change the actor's location if we wanted to. We could get forward vector from the player, and if we're shooting directly at the player, it'll get the vector of which we are shooting, and we can use that variable, call that information in, and use that to make the player do something, like move in the opposite direction. In this location, I'm going to throw them up in the air. So what we'll do is we will set actor location, so we can keep using this location, But now we want to get a reference to it, so we're going to control left click and drag it in. We're going to get the location, and we're going to do a vector plus vector. And what we want to do is, let's go ahead and increase that by a factor of 100. So what that's going to do is just knock them up in the air. Very pointless, but you can see it realizes that it's up in the air. So in the air part of the thing, so it recognizes that it needs to perform a certain action. Like, ouch, damn it, that hurt. You know, that's a very simple way of doing that. If you did just 50, it's a lot less movement. But you get a quick reaction notice. Again, with that same health system here, this was kind of pointless here of making them do that. Fun, but pointless. Just showing what you can do with a series of variables. There's so many things that you need to use variables for, and Booleans are going to be your number one. And we'll go back to our player character here in just a second. We can grab this and get our current health, and if our health is, and we can do a float check, if it is less than or equal to 0, branch node, because we are asking a question here, is our health below 0 or at or below 0? So with that, like I said, these two usually go together pretty well. You're getting the condition of the question. Question, is your health equal to or less than 0? If it is true, then we do something. If it is false, we can do the same thing we did before about knocking him in the air. But if it is true, we're at that, then we need to create another variable. And is dead. So at that point, we want to set that to is dead. And with that, we are now dead. Bang. What do we do when we're dead? Well, we can actually take this character and give him an animation. And I'm going to grab one from the animation starter pack. And it's going to be Death 1. And I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to retarget it to our regular other mannequin. And we're going to change the location it's going to our character, animations, OK, and retarget. So now we have a death animation. So our player will die. Bleh. Or our dummy will die. Now, another quick thing you can do while you're in here, if you wanted to, you can fast forward all the way to the end. This is our death pose. I'm going to create an asset, create animation, current pose, and tell it where I want it to go. And dead. He dead. So just one frame animation, and he's dead. Alright, so we can go to our animation blueprint. Now, he is in a different animation blueprint. He is using the armed animation blueprint. So I'm going to go into that one, and got all this lovely stuff in here. Everything worked just fine. It looks like shit. I didn't make this one. But what we need to find here is cast to character, update animation. It's our individual player base. What is it you are linking there, bruh? Let's see here. Okay, that was good. Yeah, General Mayhem. So, from here, event, blueprint, update animation, casting to character, we want to probably go ahead and chuck it in, say about right there. I'm just going to make some room in here. And actually, well, you know, I'm just trying to do shit today. Thank you. Alright, so let's grab all this and throw in a sequence node. Again, the sequence node is something you can use to split off your chain of events to a parallel chain of events. So we're going to cast to target dummy. We'll want to do this later for the player character if we're going to do a shooter. We want to try get pawn owner, and we can use that same one there. As target dummy, we want to get is dead. And if that is the case, we want to dead meat. We want to set that to there. Alright, so now we've set it to dead meat. What are we going to do with that? We can add that into the anim graph. Now, another thing that I will do here is something you're going to run into a need for eventually. Drag off from your locomotion and type in default, and it'll show you slot, default slot. Add that in there. Even though we're not going to use it right now, you're going to need it eventually once you start adding in animation montages. Alright, so our dude here is not crouching, he's not walking, he's not doing anything. This is only going to happen while he is idle. We're going to add a state. Death. Or dying, spelled incorrectly. That's great. So what we want to do is get this to find out that that variable now is saying, hey, is we dead? If so, then we can enter that transition. And what that's going to be here is our death animation. So I'll drag that in here. Drag that to there. Go back to our locomotion. And then we are going to transition to adding a new state. Dead. What we'll do here is we'll get, excuse me, I'm right clicking, thank you, time remaining ratio death 1, which was our animation, and we just want to ask that float, are you less than 0.1? And from there, that is dead. We're going to play dead. Now, that's going to allow us to get from our idle animation to dying, the act of dying, going into the death animation. Then whenever it gets done doing that animation, it's going to go into that. And then just for the hell of it, I'm going to drag this in here and connect that back in and grab this and grab dead meat. And we want a not boolean, NOTB. Just type in NOTB and that's the only one that'll come up. So we are no longer dead meat, so therefore now we can go back to being alive. So, and that's only from that animation. So let's see here. There we go. We just killed his ass. And he's going to stay there forever and ever and ever. And you see he has collision. So another thing we'd want to do for our target dummy is at that point get a reference to our mesh, set collision enabled, no collision, so we can just walk right through their corpse. And then let's do a delay, throw a delay on there of 5 seconds, and then destroy actor. Let's get rid of our corpses. And I'm closing you. Thank you very much. Okay, so there we go. No collision anymore, so we couldn't hit him. So he's gone. That's sad. Alright, just going to throw a couple of them in here, and we're going to get ready and close out this video. See, it only affects the one that we're shooting. That's that. Alright, well, hopefully you got a little something out of this. Usually on whatever Wednesdays, I will do whatever people request, whatever they drop in, but since nobody's making any requests, then we're going to call this, and I'm going to do something absolutely different. We'll take a break for a little bit, and I'll come back, and I will move on from there.